Hey there guys, welcome to another episode of Mortal Realms Monday. This week I'm actually going to do something a little bit different. Now I'm painting one of the Ballistar guys from issue 43, so this week's issue. However, I'm going to paint him in a battle or to a battle ready standard, so not quite the quality that I've been doing previously, in as quick a time as possible, using only a limited number of colours. And those colours I'll now go through and show you. And they are Abaddon Black, Corax White, White Scar, Mephiston Red, Evil Sun Scarlet, Corn Red, Incubi Darkness, Sotic Green, Kislev Flesh, Retributor Armour, Stormhost Silver, and Lead Belcher. And on top of that I'm going to be using 3 shades, and that will be Reichland Flesh Shade, Seraphim Sapia, and possibly Caribou Crimson, but I'm not 100% sure if I'll be using that yet. The only shade that I'm not using is the Reichland Flesh Shade Gloss. Now normally I would use a gloss for the gold armour, as I've shown you guys before, but this is to show you that you can use the Reichland Flesh Shade. It just doesn't give quite as nice a finish, but it's to reduce the amount of paints that we are using, as I can use this for the skin on his face as well as the gold on his armour. I've gone through the model and I've figured out that this should be the number of colours that I need. If I do need anything else, possibly his lantern here, if I do a yellow glow, then we may be adding a yellow as well. But for the most part, as far as I can tell, we're looking at pretty much this number of colours. So first of all, as always, I'm just going to start the timer here, and the idea is that even though parts of this I may speed up when I'm painting quietly or cut out and edit, the timer you'll still be able to see. That won't be edited. So we'll start the timer and we'll get started. Now the idea for this is to see if we can get this done in under an hour, so as quick as possible. Now like I said, this isn't going for a 100% great quality. This is going to show you that with just a few paints, in this case we're looking at 12 paints and 3 shades, that we can get a decent army. Now for some reason my brush is wanting to play up. This has been a good reliable brush so far, so hold it together buddy. But yeah, the idea is to show you, those of you that are new to the hobby, that obviously depending on your army you may be able to get away with less paints, maybe a few more, again depending on the colours, but give or take 9 paints should be enough. I'm also looking at doing a challenge at some point in the future where I will use primary and secondary colours plus metallics, black and white, and show you that you can get away with pretty much any army done with just 5 paints or a few paints. The idea behind that will be maybe a series where you guys get to choose or request a colour scheme, maybe a Space Marines chapter or a Storm Host or something like that, and I see how close to that I can get using primary colours. So if that is something you guys would like to see in the future, let me know in the comments below, and I'll see about that setting up, and obviously give me a first army to have a go at doing it with. So obviously I'm not going to go through all the details of what needs to be painted what here. You're going to be able to see this. Obviously parts of the video I'm going to speed up, but you will be able to see it all, and hopefully you guys can see a decent or a half decent finished model. Now I think his knee pad we're going to do white gold with a gold front or a black front, the emblem there, so I will leave that. Now obviously, as usual, especially with this technique, I'm going to get paint on a few areas that I don't want it, and I need to do a little bit of touching up. I think I'm going to need to order some new brushes soon, but yeah, we'll see how well we can do with this. Now obviously I've gone ahead and pre-assembled this guy and pre-primed him with grey primer. This was just I think this was Rust-Oleum 2x primer, which is good stuff. A little bit pricey, but the coverage is good. You know, a single can do a good 2 or 3 squads, so you know, 20 to 30 men of about this size. Right, now a lot of his under armour here is actually not wearing sleeves, so that's going to save us on this side of things, but he does have this little bit of under armour chest plate, I think. Yep, he does. So that is that. Hopefully I'm getting this all on camera for you guys. Alright, let's see if we can sort this brush out. And I just realised I've got no paper towel on standby. There we go. Right, so the only time I will pause this, guys, but I will not pause the timer, is when it comes to waiting for the shades to dry. Obviously there's no need to keep the video running, so at that point I will skip, but I will be including drying time in this to show you guys what can be done. So all I'm trying to do here obviously is just get a good even coverage of this inky by darkness. And get it in there nice and even. And then we can take that Sotek green and dry brush over this to get that Celestial Vindicators look. And yeah, it seems that this brush is deciding he doesn't want to play nice today. Super reliable brush, I've had him for over a year, and I'm not the best at looking after my brushes. But you know, he holds a point well. Just today, for some reason, he's not wanting to play. Just tap that so you guys can still see the timer there. Not sure how I get that phone to not go black screen. I've not done this before, this is completely new to me, so apologies if the screen goes black there. I will try and keep it visible. I have to say, this model you'll notice that I do have a slit right down around the hammer, and here for some reason it did not want to align properly. I removed the pegs on the inside, as it's a push fit model, to try and get that gap to close up. I used plastic glue and held it there in position, and it just would not go. I sanded and filed, so yeah, unfortunately I've got a gap there. I don't like filling in gaps near areas like that, but in case I flood over the detail, it's better for me just to have that gap. Plus, like I said, this isn't a display piece or anything, this is get him on the table and get him killed. I mean, get him killing. But yeah, there we go. Now the only other colour I could have used for this, or the other shade, would have been a black, just to bring out highlights on the armour panels. But like I said, I'm trying to keep this as minimal as possible. And obviously I did try to save a little bit of time by pre-pouring the paints. Normally I wouldn't do this, as I would need the space, as you can see from the mess on the other side of the palette there from a previous model. Now obviously there are going to be alternative ways to do this, and there are probably quicker ways to do it. But yeah, I'll see what we can... Sorry, I got distracted then. There are other ways to do this, probably quicker ways, but this is how I'm doing mine if I was speed painting. Now, because I like to take my time with my armies, this is not how I paint them. I paint them very much how I've done it in previous videos. What you see there is how I paint my armies up. I take my time. I'm not one to rush. I don't play too much, as I've mentioned before, and so I don't rush in and get a quick job done. I like to take my time with my models. It's the painting that I enjoy. Right, so we'll paint that bit up there. Now obviously I took a quick look at the model and figured out what colours I want where for the most part, but there are going to be areas that I haven't looked at or decided. I will try to refrain from adding any more colours to this. Obviously this is a little bit of a challenge with using these limited colours, but at the same time it's not a challenge, you know. I'm just showing you guys that you should be able to, for the most part, get a half decent result. And if you are happy, or if you do enjoy the video and like the outcome of this, then do hit that like button and help my channel grow. Hit that subscribe button and you'll get more videos like this. So I'd say that's a nice all-round job. Should really be deducting time from having to do the timer, but no, we won't. Right. Okay, so just looking quickly, it does seem as though that is all done. Apologies for the slight bit of edit there. The camera battery died, so I had to change that. I did pause the timer whilst I was changing it, and as you can see I haven't done anything else to this guy, so no cheating, just bloody camera battery, which I hope to upgrade to a webcam in a few months. Funds are a bit limited at the minute with so many models to buy to get video content out to you guys. I figured you'd rather see content than me not produce content and buy recording equipment instead. So it's one or the other at the minute, but I am saving up. Alright, now that that's done, I'm going to grab a dry brush. I've got one here. So this is a dry brush that I made of the makeup brush that I've used in previous videos. All I've done is with scissors just chop that down, and I found that the bristles further down are a lot stiffer, as they're obviously closer to where they are put into the furrow, and so this makes great for dry brushing now. So all I'm going to do is dip into that Sotek green, get the majority of it off, just test it on the base here, and all I'm going to do is now just dry brush this over all of those incubi darkness areas. Not a huge amount to do on this, which makes this much easier. Now obviously, being a makeup brush, I am limited to one size, but I do plan on getting the an actual dry brush set at some point in the future, so that I can get into those slightly harder to reach areas. Such as here near his head, so he doesn't end up with a blue head like he's getting now. Now, one other thing you may notice about this guy and any future models that I do for the series is that I am not basing them. They're just the standard bases that they come with. I want them to match the moulded bases, and rather than making my own ones, I am looking into either getting some pre-sculpted ones and transferring them to those, or getting some of the Green Stuff World rollers, or some other manufacturer, but a roller of some kind, and going in and rolling out my own, which I will probably do a video to show you guys. Right, so that is pretty much done. If we can get the light into position. Okay, a good enough finish for game ready. And the only downside to this brush is the amount of water that it absorbs being a makeup brush, and then trying to clean it. Usually what I do is just leave it in soak until I finish the model, and then re-clean it. Clean it properly at the end with soap and water. Get the majority of it out, and that'll be fine. Right, so next up I'm going to do all of the black areas. So that is his gloves, anywhere that is going to be metal or gold, and also the back of his, or the insides of his robes. Now his leather belt that he has come across here, I was going to do black, but because he's got this black under here as well, I'm thinking of doing it red. Now I would do something like brown, but obviously that would mean adding another paint or two, and kind of beat the point of what I'm trying to show you guys here. That's not to say you can't mix up a brown with using these colours, but that is a whole nother video. Right, so the trim of this is going to be black, and then the diamonds in the centre are going to be red. And I've got a feeling, looking at the timer and knowing how I tend to go over the top, probably ain't going to hit that 1 hour mark. But it'll be nice to see, nice to try. Now obviously I could leave this stage out and do all of these areas with just the straight paints over the top instead. But we'll see what we can do. Obviously he's got this little bit that comes up here, and his belt as it comes down the side here. You know what, to save time, we will do that belt in black rather than red. I say belt, the strap coming down here. Don't know why I'm trying to paint around this. It's going to be gold anyway, so it can be black anyway. That will be gold, but because we've got red to go in there, there's no point in painting that just yet. And the only other colour that I'm going to be sacrificing on this is for the little parchment piece that he has just here. Now normally I would do that with bone colours and Seraphim Sapia, but again that would mean adding more colour or more, you know, paint to purchase. Although to be fair, bone colour or a bone type paint is probably one of the top 20 paints I would have if I had to have, you know, a limited list of 20 paints. Then that would be one that I would have on there. Obviously I want to get behind the knees and stuff like that. Now the important thing about doing this, and to obviously try and save time, is to not get paint on areas that I've already done. Otherwise that would mean going back and touching up. So if I can avoid that, then that's obviously a good thing. Now the pot of water, oh, have I knocked the camera there? Sorry guys, that's obviously when I move my light. There we go. So the pot of water that I've got here is for using for clean water, so I'm not pulling out of a rinse pot. And obviously that's just an egg holder or an egg cup filled with some water. Now if you're going to use an egg cup, guys, make sure it's a plastic one and not one of the springy metal ones, because you may find your water won't fill up in it. But no, in all seriousness, having a clean source of water for thinning down paints and such is definitely worth having just at the side. You don't need a huge pot like you would with your wash pot, which I've got just off camera there, but definitely a little bit of water to access helps a lot. Now obviously with this I'm taking a bit of artistic liberty with it, and you know, putting colours where I would like them, obviously keeping in the main theme of it being Celestial Vindicators. But I've seen a few reference photos online as such where instead of black these areas were white, at least the robe areas, whereas I prefer the look of the black. I think the stark contrast between the black and the blue with the red really makes them pop. That and the fact that white is a horrible colour to paint anyway, and giving yourself more of it is just suicidal. Now have you seen me dipping into that pot with paint on here, you know, without giving it a proper rinse? I'm not dirtying up my water too much, it's still, you know, I would count it as clean water. All I'm doing that for is to bring the point back on the bristles. As you've seen throughout this piece, this brush is deciding to be horrible to me. The one time I really need this to be reliable. And the other way that this would be faster would be contrast paints, and obviously the way you would do that is throw down a zenithal highlight and throw your contrast down over the top. I mean, you could probably do it with the greys as well, without the zenithal, you know, just prime it in a white or a grey and then use your contrast in these places, and obviously that's going to give you the shading and highlights that we are going to have to do by hand here, whereas that will put them in automatically. Not as good a finish, but definitely a battle ready or tabletop standard. Very similar to what I've got here with this going on. And you'll probably notice, guys, that the phone, I figured out how to turn that auto thing off when I changed the batteries on the camera, and so you guys can see the full time non-stop. So yay, you go me. Probably should have thought that before filming, but never mind. Obviously one thing about this is I've got the timer there, and I am rushing against it. I wouldn't normally do this, but having it there is obviously pushing me a little bit. But as I said, I'm not sure I'll get it done, but we'll see. It's just to see how long we can get, or how long, you know, this will take if we were working to this standard with this limited palette. Now to try and get all of in there. Oh, bash the camera. Now obviously if you want a better finish, then paint areas like this before assembling the models, guys. When I do that, I tend to prime it on the sprue, so prime the whole sprue, then you know, clip out the pieces, file down any areas that need doing, and then go back over with a brush primer, thin down, just to touch up and match it as best I can to the paint, or the spray primer. Apparently Army painter paints do that quite well. After using their brushes and not being happy with them, not too sure if I'll try their paints, but again, that's a whole different story. But if they work, then obviously you'll be able to match that up. Now obviously anywhere such as the trim here that is going to be gold, I don't need to worry too much about getting it a solid black, but anywhere that is going to be black, obviously I need to get that solid black in there. probably don't need to fuss over that too much, as it's going to be silver. But there we go, we've got gold bits black, gold bits black. Right, huge apologies there, guys. It seems the camera stopped recording and I didn't check it. I've just noticed, and so I've hit record straight away. I've left the timer on the timer running, but obviously I'm having to edit this slightly to whatever I've missed out but picked up on the palette cam. So what I am doing now is, obviously I've done all the white using the Corax white, and I'm now going in with the Mephiston red and doing the red areas. Hopefully when I go back and check, all I've missed is the start of the Mephiston red here. But if I did miss the white, then like I say, I've not stopped the timer, so the bit that's been edited out there is what missed on the painting cam, and the time obviously has jumped, but that's just because it carried on recording whilst I was painting, or carried on timing whilst I was painting. And obviously that's why I need a second webcam, so I have one for the palette cam, one for this cam. My palette cam is actually the mic that I'm using to capture the audio. It has a better microphone on it than the camera that is right under my face. But once I've got those set up, then I promise you the video quality will be improving. So guys, please just bear with me. I'm just a poor boy trying to make a video. But yeah, I'll get there. And I just thank all of you that are already supporting me, even with the quality that I'm putting out at the minute. You know, you guys are the true supporters and the backbone to the channel. So thank you ever so much for supporting me through the bad and hopefully into the good. Right, so that is the reds all done. Now I'm grabbing the corn red here. I could have done this with the Mephiston red again to save time and paint, but I do like to at least try and fit this in somewhat with my army, the rest of the army. Obviously they're going to be a bit more detail, a bit more of a paint job, but I will compare this to one of the earlier ones that I painted as Vindicators, and then you guys at the end can see the difference, or not, depending on how well this comes out or how bad my painting usually is. But yeah. Right, so now I'm going to paint in these flesh tones quickly. And this is going to take a little bit of going over. It's going to take a few layers. Obviously we're using a pale flesh tone and going over grey and blue as the head has gone. Now obviously the important thing with this, you know, although I'm timing it, isn't the time. This isn't to show how quick I can paint it or to try to beat the clock. That's just there A is an example of, you know, time it can take, and B just a little side challenge just to see if I could beat it, which obviously 3 minutes to go is not going to happen. Especially seeing as his head wants to show this blue through it. Maybe we could give him blue hair. Just say, there you go, he's done. But no, a couple of layers, we'll get over that. Now normally what I would have done is gone in with white and painted all his skin tone to get it to a nice even white first, but this will be fine. And obviously if you're batch painting these, timing is going to be a little bit different, as you can move between them whilst previous layers are drying. Okay, so what I'm going to do whilst I'm waiting for that to dry, I'm going to go back with the Inky by Darkness and just touch up areas such as under here that I had missed, his knee pad here that I had gone over with the black, and that bit of armour there, and we've got the knee pad in here like so, and then just in here obviously any grey areas I'm going to try and fix. Probably should have got this bit beforehand. I'm just going to switch now to a size 1 brush. So that I can get into some of those tighter areas. And that would be black in there, and obviously I've missed some of that corn red on the handle there. So obviously this is now part of what I call the touch-up stage. Where I go round and start neatening areas up. This is the time consuming part. Even with a battle ready finish, you know, I still want a good looking model on the table, so it is still worth going in and just doing some of these extra little bit touch-ups. It's more the smaller details that we leave off when doing a battle ready quality. So his gloves, just make sure the trim around the edge there is painted in, as well as under there. His belt across here. Also do the anvil part of the buckle there. And I've just realised this isn't my size 1, this is my 2.0. So too fine a brush to be doing this with, really. It's obviously in the wrong slot of my brush holder. I have my brushes in specific slots, at least usually, going from largest to smallest. That is my finer detail one. And so this is my size 1. Right, now what I'm going to do is take some of this Sotek green and just sort of pick off a few areas that I want to be a bit brighter that dry brushing didn't quite get. And I've got barely any paint on the brush here, so it is almost like dry brushing in itself, but it's just brightening areas up as though it was dry brushed, such as the flatter areas under the armour here, that section there, and this area under here. There we go. So definitely past the hour mark now, but not a problem. Just don't set me any 12-hour battle box challenges or anything, because I can tell you now that would be a fail. I mean, I'd give it a go, but it would be a fail. Okay, back to the 3 and the flesh tone. Let's get that head fleshed in. Now with battle ready, I would not consider the eyes important. The idea is just to get colours. I mean, Games Workshop, the rules for tournaments and stuff, and even in the new rulebook for 40k, I'm not sure if it's the same with Age of Sigmar or if it will be in the newer rulebook, but you even get bonus victory points for having a painted army. Now to me, a painted army would be 3 colours minimum, more, well not more, but 3 colours with shades, so they don't necessarily need highlights, but the red, for example, red with a Carabao crimson over the top would count. The red on its own, yeah, you could count it, I suppose. It's painted. Right, next up, washes. So what I'm going to do now, first of all, is the, oh, there's a point. this piece. So no, not washes. Now this piece, like I said, I would normally do in a bone colour, but I'm going to do it in this flesh tone as it is close to a bone colour, especially when it's got the sepia over the top. I've just noticed I've got some grey area under there, and that's the wrong red. That red. Right, next up the gold. So nowhere near the shade yet, guys, sorry, jumping ahead of myself there. So Retributor armour over anything that I want to be gold, obviously being careful now not to hit anything I've already painted. There we go, even with the lantern I don't have to paint that yellow, it just looks like it's turned off. This piece here, that strap goes over that, so be careful not to hit the strap there. Bit of gold on the kneecap guard, and then we've got this lightning bolt thing just in here. I could do that white, but I'm going to go with the gold. As I said, painter's choice. It's my army, and I'll do what I want to. Now, I will say that although I'm classing this as battle standard, if this was a commission piece painted to my lowest price, I would obviously make sure that it is a lot cleaner. This is literally what I would do if I was speed painting my own personal army to get them on the table to play with my kids. So obviously take from that what you will. You can paint it to this standard, or you can go slightly higher. Alright, then we've got the pommel part of the sword here, and obviously his pauldrons. Paint the hammer at the back here. Now, when I was talking about extra details before, that would be things like these rivets, studs, you know, extra layers of highlight and stuff like that. That's what you would do for the next tier up after this, you know, the next standard, I suppose you could call it. Which would be what Games Workshop call parade ready. And then you have what I call display quality, and then competition quality. And competition quality is something that I very rarely do. I don't personally enter competitions, and even for commissions it's very rare that I will do a piece to a competition quality, partly because I believe if somebody's requesting competition quality, then there's a chance they're planning on entering it into a competition. Otherwise, you know, why not be happy with display quality if you want it on your shelf, and if you are looking to use it in games, then why not parade ready? I think this is probably one thing that is messing up my brushes, is I'm using metallic paints, or I'm painting metallic paints with natural brushes instead of synthetic, and apparently that can have an effect on the hairs. I'm assuming something to do with the metal flakes in the paint. But these guys are so cheap and you know, really good, that I don't mind using them for everything. we've got that little bit belt buckle thing there. Which could even be part of that. Right, so that's the golds done, except for his belt buckle there, but I will be coming back to that. So now for the metal part. Now what I'm trying to do with this, so I don't need to use non-oil, so that I'm another shade less on using, is using the side of the brush, and not quite like a dry brush, but what it's doing is leaving that edge right where the non-oil would go. And because I'm not giving this a super thick coat, it's giving that slightly faded into look that non-oil would give without giving it that dirty over, so I wouldn't have to paint back over it like I would if I did this with non-oil. Oh, that's my elbows on the chair. Right, then we've got these rings. Came in a bit too fast with the brush then. Nearly ended up painting an area that I didn't want to. Right, that's that. That's all of that. That's painted. Just got that to do in golds. Don't know why I left it that colour. But now we can move on to the shading. Actually, I'm quickly going to do two things, well, one thing that will work for another. I'm going to carefully dry brush the reds with the Evil Suns, pretty much just up the middle here, and then along this ridge here. Now obviously I may have to go back over with the black and the gold. So we'll grab the black, neaten that edge back up. Grab the gold. Neaten that up. Do we need to do it on the front? I think we've got to wait. No, a little bit in there. And then some of that flesh tone. Okay, so apologies again, guys. It turns out that the camera once again turned off. All I'm doing now is the shades. Obviously you can see the timer there, it's still been running. The shades so far I've done are Carabao Crimson within the red areas and on the weapon handles, and then some Seraphim Sepia just on the parchment here, just to give that a brown tint. And I'm now using some Reichland Flesh Shade, and first of all I'm just going to apply this to the skin areas and going to dot that around on his head, and what that will do as that dries, that's going to hopefully give him a bit of a stubble look. And then we can obviously get that into the rest of his skin and darken up those areas. Same with under here. Really get it to sort of collect up in between those muscles. Like so. And then for the gold, all I'm going to do is just sort of paint it on and let it sit down in some of these recesses and up along the edges of the gold, sort of the inside edges. The same with the hammer here. The hammer, the dagger, handle and that. So all I'm trying to do is just get that sort of stain, that reddish tint in there. I don't want it going too much because I've noticed, more so with the gloss than this one, but you tend to get a little bit of a gel-like look to it, and I'm assuming that's more with the gloss because that is what makes the gloss, that is the gloss gel. So it's better to do a few layers of this, letting each one dry, rather than do one thick one. Right, now obviously I want to get under the armour because that's going to be a little bit darker under there. So if I can get this flesh shade under there in areas such as this, and that will just give it a bit more of a better look. Right, and then in here, just going to add a bit more of the flesh shade to that sepia, just to change the colour from what the top is. You can see this flesh shade is almost drying already. So it's really not going to take long at all to get back to it. Right, now the only other thing is, obviously we've got all of this Inky Bright Darkness and Sotek Green. Now normally, I think that's going to be too much, yeah, that's not going to work. Normally I would do that with either Corellia Green Shade or non-oil, but that doesn't seem like it's going to work. So all I'm going to do is move that palette out of the way, get one of these little cups into view, and I'm going to make my own one, obviously whilst this is drying. So I'm just going to add a little bit in there. Now this isn't going to work as good because I'm using water, and typically you would use a medium. Now I want a little bit of black in there. Try and darken it up just a little bit you go, so not too bad. And then hopefully I can get this to sit in the recesses almost like it would if it was a shade. I'm going to be a little bit more particular, as it is going to stain what I've already put down, and I don't want that. I just want that shade brought up. So obviously this shows that you can get a shade with just water. You don't need a shade paint. You just need to thin it down enough that it's going to flow into the areas you want it to flow, and just be a little bit more particular on where you're applying it. Right, and then we can let that dry. So what I'm going to do is I won't be pausing the timer at all, but I am obviously going to skip ahead and come back once that's dry. So in about 5 minutes or so, I'll see you guys in a bit. Alright, so welcome back, guys. So obviously we've got probably about 4 minutes past so far. Some of the wash is a little bit wet, as you can see down in this area here. So with this next, what I'm going to do next is just to avoid those areas, but we can start painting some of the other stuff, such as the emblem on the kneecap here, and also on the shoulder guard, and just basically just try and stay away from those slightly more or slightly still wet areas. Let them dry, but it does mean that we can carry on. So there's that one there. I just realised I completely missed the belt in gold here, so I will do that in a bit. We've got this one here. Obviously, as you can see, the Whiteland flesh shade has darkened up that gold, but it has left it dull. What I would do obviously is varnish that area with a paint on gloss varnish, something like their Citadel Hard Coat, I think it is called. Storm Shield is the matte one. I'm pretty sure it's the technical Hard Coat is the gloss one, but obviously any gloss varnish would do. Right, so that's those black bits done. Now I can move on to highlighting. So first of all, I'm going to highlight these black areas by mixing up a grey, and all I'm going to do is just edge highlight any of those black areas. Now obviously you could say that this is already at tabletop ready or battle ready, but I think that in order to call it that, it should have highlights on there as well. So all I'm doing, just going around picking off some of these more flat areas, and you know, just giving them that little bit of highlight. Let's lighten that up a little bit just so it's showing a little bit better. So obviously down this edge, down the edge of the blade here. His gloves, or whatever these things are called. Just very carefully trying to catch edges with the brush here. Too thick there, but that's not a problem. I can go back in and neaten that up. Alright, just try and very carefully pull down this edge here. And then the same along this edge here. There we go, that's that. Then we can take some of this corn red and again some of the white scar, mix that up, and that will give us another highlight. And this one will be for the handles. Now these I hate highlighting and I am terrible at them, but we'll see what we can get. Like I say, this is tabletop ready, probably don't need to do this, and this is where I go too overboard and take too much time focusing on unnecessary details for the standard that I'm painting to. Right, then we grab some of the Stormhost silver, and we're just going to edge highlight the gold on a few areas, just a few of the extreme curves, such as these. And then the outer edges on this, I suppose you could call it a stave or something. And then right, there we go guys, sorry for that, obviously the camera died there. Right, gonna take some of this white scar now, make sure obviously it's the cleaner bit of paint here, and just going to edge highlight up the top here on these pauldrons, and then all I'm going to do is just flick my brush backwards and forwards, almost like a dry brush, and just catch that domed portion at the top and some of the gold. Right, now I'm going to mix in the Wild Rider red there. I don't want this going too pink, so all I'm going to do is mix this up with a little bit of that flesh tone, and that will keep it a little bit more towards the red side. And then all I'm going to do, no, okay, we went more towards the pink side, but just very gently try and catch some of the edges of these diamond print, just to give the impression of highlight. And then the same down the front here. Now normally for this I would use the Wild Rider red, it has more of an orange tone to it, but I think that that has worked fine. Just gonna neaten up that gold again, obviously I messed that up. There we go. And while I'm here with that gold, actually we can get this bit done in here. Then we can take some of that Stormhost silver, just edge highlight parts of this what is it, like a magazine thing for the Ballistar. I'm assuming these are like energy packs rather than mini arrows, because obviously that thing fires bolts. Bolts of energy, I should say. Right, so that's that. A little bit on the ring. And then all I've got to do, some Sotek green, a little bit of white, get that slightly lighter, and then highlight, or edge highlight, the armour. So across the top, make sure we get the joints of the the gloves. Now obviously I have to be careful not to get it in between. And again, this is just going for that tabletop finish, so it doesn't have to be super clean. Just get it on there. Right, and there we go guys. So that is the finished model to a tabletop standard. We'll stop the timer there, and as you can see, nearly 2 hours, so definitely not the hour that I was hoping for. But you know, I enjoyed painting it. I hope you've enjoyed the video. Obviously we got our highlights there. We even managed to get a sort of hair, if the camera will pick that up. You know, he looks like he's got hair there, and that was just done with a wash. So nice, quick, easy stubble there. Now obviously, if we were to go further, I would neaten up these highlights. I would do double highlights, so go back over, I would pick out rivets, extra highlights, such as obviously we've got this grey, I would go with a lighter highlight. You know, just a lot more detail overall, fill in the eyes, go back over with skin tone and mark those areas out. Pick off highlights obviously with this. If I had more paint, obviously I would go over with you know, different greys, different colours, different tones and whatnot. But the main exercise of this video was to show you that with, what do we have here, 12 colours and 3 shades, so 15 colours, and you can get a half decent paint job done. Now I've got, this is one of my older guys, hopefully you can see there that we've just got a few extra details on this one. Obviously I know it's a different character, but or a different model, but hopefully you can see that we're not far off the colour scheme. You can see here obviously the main difference with the reds on the back, where I've gone in with layers on this one, and obviously different paints for highlights, whereas this one we've used the same 2 paints, but with the Caterpillar Crimson it does give a much different finish, but it still fits in with the army, with the colour scheme. Obviously the blue on this one is a little bit brighter, again because it was layered and highlighted more. This one was dry brushed, and then obviously we got the greys a little bit different, again because they were layered up using Eshin grey and some other ones. But yeah, I'd say that's come up a pretty good job. So there you go. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Thank you ever so much for joining me and for putting through this one. If you did enjoy the video, hit that like button. If you're not already subscribed, hit that subscribe button. If you are new to the channel, newly subscribed, then thank you for this subscription and the support, and welcome to the channel. And until next time guys, take it easy, keep painting those minis.